Arguments. An argument is actually an act, or we can call it a process of an exchange of words or sentences that is bound to occur naturally. It's normal, to occur normally and naturally amongst human beings. What do I mean by this? So long you are in a constant interaction with another person or some sort of relationship, be it a platonic relationship, romantic relationship, the relationship that exists between family members. So long you're in any kind of relationship whatsoever with a person or with one or two persons, you people are bound to argue. And why is this? Because, some people begin to wonder that can't we just exist, without arguing? Is it not possible to maintain a peaceful and cordial relationship without argument? I beg to differ. Now, this is because even if the person you're in a relationship with is, say, a family member, your father, your mother, your sister, your brother, not to now talk of maybe a colleague outside of the boundaries of your family and relationship, right? A colleague, a friend, or you happen to be in a romantic relationship or a marital one, right? The truth about the matter is that you two individuals are individuals that have two, how will I call it, two ways of thinking. You have opposing beliefs, even if you exist within the same family structure. Yes, I mean that's the reason why you say a father and a mother, train a child, and after for years and years that they get to train that child. The child was a baby at a point, then the child grows up to be a toddler, then a child, then an adolescent, then a teenager, an adolescent, and even a young adult later on, right? And such parents begin to wonder, when arguments ensue between them and that child, they begin to wonder, like, when did you become stubborn? That is what some of these parents would see their child as, right? Or even the child will even say to the parents, why can't you even see my own side of the story, or my own side of what we're talking about? Why don't you see sense with what I'm talking about? They begin to wonder that, for crying out loud, I'm your father. I trained you about all of the things you know about in life, or about life in general. You got to learn from me. But is that really, really so? Because this same child is someone you trained at a point. He or she was with you for a certain number of years of his existence or existence, right? And after a while, you enroll that child into a school, and the child gets to mix with other children. From mixing with other children, you have to know that when children go to school, whether it's a primary school or secondary school, those that end up even now going to tertiary institutions, right? When they end up going to school, they are not just going there to learn algebra or philosophy or counting numbers or alphabets, as the case may be in any of all these stages of learning, right? They also learn. There's a culture that exists even in the school, and that culture is being fostered by a lot of elements and forces. When I say elements and forces, I mean you have the teachers, you have the principals, you have even those that are not teachers, like the cleaners, you have the security man, you have those that are catering to their food needs. If the school rather is one that, a child doesn't need to take, his or her food from home and is able to eat from school. So you have that as well. Then you also have the other children, that the child gets to mix with. And all these individuals are people that are coming from different backgrounds. These are people that have different beliefs. And I beg to even differ, or I beg to say rather that even in addition with what the teacher tends to teach the child, there are times when maybe in the place of instilling discipline at some point, in the child, the teacher won't say, okay, I will use the laws of theorem or something like that, or the laws of thermodynamics to discipline you. He or she, without even knowing it, will look inwards, and from his own understanding or our understanding of what disciplining a child is all about, will use that to discipline a child. Now that's an infusion of something different that the child is not used to, but the child is already getting introduced to it, right? Apart from what he or she grew up with, from his or her family, from home rather, where the child is coming from. And so there are a whole lot of forces coming into play. The child is observing, the child is learning, the child is listening, and all of this forms the makeup of a child. And even in addition to this as well, I mean, there are a whole lot of elements that play out in this particular scenario. The child then goes on and does what? Turns on the TV, and there are different things. That is why it is very, very important, for parents to be watchful of even what their children view on the TV, right? Even parents should even go ahead to even question, when they see something different or something new. It might not necessarily be a bad thing, but just something new like a habit or a trail of thoughts or a line of reasoning that the child has already taken in, and you begin to hear the child say some certain things. You sit down and you have conversations. Yeah, you have conversations with that child, and so all these things come together, and then the child is being developed not only from the infusion of the things he or she learns from her parents or his parents, right, or guardians, as the case may be, but also from the things that he or she picks up, from school, from church, from going to a party, from different forces. And that is why you'd see a parent begin to wonder, like maybe when they get to talking, or when an argument ensues, comes up, the parent begins to wonder, like, what makes you think this way? Why are you saying this way? This was not what I thought you. And the child on the other hand is saying, can't you just even reason with me for a minute and understand where I'm coming from? A whole lot of things are happening. And so I said all of this to, emphasize that even in an argument, even in a family setting, in as much as you all grew up together, you're close, you're intimate, and you're close to your father, you're close to your mother, your sisters, and everything, you're still different. And that is why in an argument, or should I say the definition of an argument actually means, when there's a presentation of different thoughts, different opinions, diverging opinions concerning a matter. And the thing about this talk about arguments is that it goes beyond the family setting, right, and goes into other relationship, or rather it comes up in other relationships like, I mentioned one before, when you eventually now, as a child, a child that grows up to be a young adult, goes into school, goes into the university or polytechnic, right? And there are a whole lot of things that play out, and then arguments ensue. My point in all of this is that, see, there is no relationship in as much as you say you love this person, or this person is your very tight friend, or your covenant partner, or whatever you might use to tag that relationship or that person you're in a relationship with. Arguments will still ensue. Now, why this talk about arguments, right? Why this talk about arguments and all that? It's because the purpose of this is actually to look at how they play out, right? How they play out in romantic relationships, marital relationships specifically, and what can be gained from this kind of arguments, or what also can be lost from arguments, or why they even come up. I believe that I've done enough justice, at least for the purpose of this conversation, regarding the reason why an argument ensues. Basically, different opinions. I have my own opinion, you have your own opinion, and so there's going to be some sort of clash per se, right? And so before we even go into looking at arguments in a marital or romantic relationship between a man and a woman, right, we're going to even look at the different types of arguments in the context of what we're talking about. I know there are a lot of different types of arguments. If you type on Google right now, if you go to the internet, and you type out different types of arguments, you will see a whole lot of answers. You have deductive, you have inductive arguments, a whole lot of different kinds of causal arguments. But for the purpose of what we're talking about, I'm going to be focusing on just these two kinds, which I know would go a long way in shedding more light in concerning what is being discussed now. So types of arguments. If you're going to look at the types of arguments for the purpose of this conversation, we're going to see that there are two kinds, basically. You have the constructive argument, and you also have the destructive argument, right? The constructive and the destructive argument. Now, a constructive argument is one whereby you're not just waiting to just listen to yourself. You're not just thinking you're the right person, you're the only right person in that conversation, right? You're not thinking that only your opinion stands. But in as much as you're putting your opinion on the table, nobody says you shouldn't put down your opinion. Nobody says you shouldn't, present your points, right? During that kind of conversation. Apologies for the background noise. Some works are being done, around this place. All right, so nobody says that you shouldn't put down your opinion. But in a constructive argument, you're putting that down so that the other person is listening, is paying attention to what you're saying, and he or she is taking into cognizance what you're saying, and how it relates to the topic of conversation. Now, for you as someone who is putting down your opinion, you're not just going to put down your opinion and think that your opinion is the only right one there is, but you are also giving ear, listening attentively to what the other person is saying. Because in the long run, the end game, right, the end game of having an argument that is constructive is to what? ensure that you guys come into a perfect resolution. You guys are able to agree. You guys are able to bring out something concrete from that argument, even from the different opinions. And in the long run, you realize that you've learned something. He or she, the other person that you were arguing with, has also learned one or two things. And there is learning has also taken place, something that you were not aware of before, but you're now aware of it. It has also taken place, and you're growing thereby. Same also for the other person. Now, that's what a constructive argument is all about. Now, going into a destructive argument, I mean, it's just the opposite of a constructive argument. A destructive argument actually is all about you're already thinking that you're right, which in most or in certain cases you would be. Now, the idea of an argument is that it's not as if you're not right. You could be right, the other person could be right, but there are also other times when you might not be on the right, so to speak. But even in a destructive argument, you know that you're right, and the other person also too knows that he or she is right, and so there's a clash. Nobody is willing to listen to anybody. I just want to put out my points. I just want you to see things only from my own angle. I only want you to see that as far as this conversation is concerned, as far as this topic is concerned, I'm the right person. The solution I'm providing is the only way to go. And you realize that there is going to be a back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And most often than not, in such arguments, there are demeaning words are said, negative words are, uttered. Some people even go towards the extreme by exchanging, getting physical, and in the long run, nothing is gained, nothing is learned. Emotions are hurt, or people are hurt, and the relationship is strained. Is being turned bit by bit. And so that's what a destructive argument is all about. Now, going into taking all of this into a marital, relationship, a marital situation. Now you see a man and a woman coming together, as husband and wife. And like I had already, established from the very beginning that you have in a relationship, you have different people coming in together with different opinions, different mindsets, different experiences, different beliefs, right? Different ways of communicating, actually. And then these are the same kind of people that end up getting married. And in the long run, an argument ensues. Now the question would be, which one would you rather go for? Would you rather go for your argument to be towing the lane of being constructive, or going the other way around, which is being destructive? And of course, we know that in a marital relationship, nobody decides to go into a marriage with the idea of, okay, we're going to get divorced or we're going to separate. Nobody plans for that to happen. But because of certain things like having constructive arguments are not handled properly, that is where you begin to see such a relationship being strained. And before you know what's up, you hear some people say, when a divorce, if a divorce ensues, you begin to hear people say things like, we had to go apart because of irreconcilable differences. But could it be that those differences could actually be reconciled if only both partners could actually exercise, patience with one another, in order to be able to listen attentively to what this other person is saying? Like I said before, the truth about the matter is that I am thinking that I'm right. My husband is also thinking he's right. But even in the way that we are thinking we are right, and I could present a whole lot of reasons, evidences to show you that on this matter, I am the right one. But love and being compassionate and being patient, as it were, would compel you, so to speak, to, for lack of better words, to take a chill pill, right? And consider what this other person is saying. Listen attentively. Listen attentively to what your husband is saying. Listen attentively to what your wife is saying. Consider all the factors that are involved, and probably the other factors that you are not even considering, that she's trying to even bring, or he is trying to bring into this particular conversation. I think the important thing in this kind of, because the truth is, people will say that communication is key, communication is key. Most of the communication that you might even have in your marriage might even come out from, most often than not, come out from an argument. Like I said before, argument is just what? A presentation of different ideas, opinions, and everything. Emotions are not being hurt at this point in time. It's just I have a different opinion from yours, and that is what is constituting this kind of communication. That is what an argument is. But so that we don't go to the extreme, into the destructive part, or the destructive kind rather, of an argument, I would rather listen to you. I'd rather pay attention as I'm putting down, as I'm putting down my opinions, as I'm putting down my submissions to you. I'd rather listen to you, look at where you're taking it from and all of that, and consider what you're saying, and let bygones be bygones and learn from it. Now I know that in reality, when this argument sets in, it's most often than not always like this, right? So what do? There are times when you just need to just keep calm. It's not every time you tend to want to present your case, as it were. right? Even if you know that you're right. It's not every time you tend to want to present your opinion at that point, especially if it's a situation that is something that is not life-threatening. What is being discussed is not a life-threatening situation. It's something you know that, okay, if I don't even say anything concerning this thing, is it going to make me less of a person? Obviously not, right? So you consider all of that. And if you know the best option for you at that point in time is to keep your opinion, no matter how right you know you are, but your partner isn't seeing that at that point in time, listen to him, listen to her, and be in agreement. Another day, another opportunity might present itself in another day, right? For you to go back to that conversation and say, things like, I heard all what you said, and I saw that regarding this and this and this and these things that you said, that yes, it made a whole lot of sense, and I appreciate you mentioning all of this. However, regarding these aspects of the conversation, if you think about it this way, or if you think about it this way, if you consider it this way, don't even say that I still believe that I'm right. That's not how you present it. If you think about it this way, if you consider that same situation from this aspect, right? Don't you think that judging this way might be totally not so good? There's a way and manner in which you would present it. And so, because emotions are not high at that point in time, your husband, your wife is liable to listen to you, is in that state of mind that he or she is able to listen to you and consider the things that you're saying right at that point in time. And you'd see that those things people end up calling irreconcilable differences are actually differences that would even help both of you to grow together in love, and even fashion you both, individually speaking, to a better person than how you even came into the marriage. Because the truth is, people normally say that when you come into marriage, you learn, and it's true. I'm learning from you. I've never seen life the way you're seeing it right now, and having considered it, I think it makes a whole lot of sense. And so that's how to go about it. Now, I understand that in certain marriages, there are certain spouses that would not want to listen to anything. Now, I'm talking about things like maybe abuse. Maybe if you're with someone who wouldn't even want to listen to you at all. Probably before you even say A, he or she would have said a lot of things, and even accompanied it with, being physical, basically, with you. At that point in time, I would encourage you to insist on what is right and what is wrong. I'll suggest, therapy, if he or she is willing, for both of you to, go for therapy, as the case may be. Go for therapy. Also, I would say you commit each other in prayers, pray about it. And if the case is worsening, I think it would be best for you guys to reconsider really what was the reason why we came into this marriage in the first place. And looking at that, make your decision from that. I hope this has been able to give you one or two, tips concerning how to handle arguments in your marital relationship, or in any relationship for that matter.